morning, Chef. You look a little different.
Welcome to the Big Motor Small Blade podcast. Through bloodshot eyes, my name is Buddy Pulley, co-host of the Big Motor Small Blade podcast, and on tour, joined of course by FrontStretch.com's lead car store reporter and co-host of the Big Motor Small Blade podcast, and on tour, Chuck Folsom, and then not Seth. This week Seth is still in Indianapolis or somewhere in between here or there. We have Peter Stratta,
slightly slower than Larson is.
He's going there. Yeah, exactly. We have Peter Stratta from THJ Sports joining us for the Coca-Cola 373.5 podcast. Vibes are low.
Very.
Vibes
Incredibly.
are low. My antidepressants are getting good use.
These cinnamon twists ain't even doing nothing for me.
Yeah. How we feeling, boys?
Tired. It was a long day yesterday, and we spent about 2 hours just waiting around doing nothing for a really disappointing result.
Yeah. Chuck?
Welcome to Dinner with Chuck, by the way. Yeah, there's a whole lot of things I'd love to say that I can't say because I'll lose my job.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna sum it up like this. That sucked. The track was dry. I don't know. You could have thrown my grandma's Camry out there for 10 laps and it would have been bone dry. So whatever. I guess we all got screwed out of our money.
Yeah.
I sure did.
I guess we'll go ahead and tackle it.
For those that don't know, I went as a fan this week, by the way. So that's why
Yes. I went as a fan this week as well. I'm not
And
a
I was
media member,
media.
so Peter.
I was there as media this week.
Peter was keeping.
Peter's picking up my slack this week.
Yeah. Oh, that ain't much to pick up. Let's be real. So yeah, I guess I'll just give my feelings to begin with. I'm just fucking disappointed, dude. I mean, this is probably wrong and this is coming from a dark place, but like I feel like several things happened last night that are just frustrating. I feel like if anything, NASCAR wanted to get the race in, believe it or not. I feel like Fox wanted to stick it to Amazon and the sport because they're not going to have the Coca-Cola 600 next year. So I think they wanted to stick it to them and say, you know what, fine, you don't get this one, because from what I've heard, it was partially a Fox call. I feel like SMI, thought, this is about when the race was already going to end. We don't have to pay people extra. We already got the money. Let's send them home. I left. This is the second time in a week and a half that a race has gotten called, and I've left the racetrack and had a bone dry drive home. It's really fucking frustrating. And there's a reason that I put so much effort into on tour. It's because the sport pisses me off, and I've been rather disenchanted with it between the short track package and just a lot of decisions this sport's making. Off the top of my head, so it's my favorite race of the year. I've been going to the Coca-Cola 600 for 20 years. The Indy 500 is the greatest spectacle in racing. For me, I've been to both. Doesn't hold a candle to the Coca-Cola 600. It's just a special race to me. It's a special race to a lot of people, and this one was extra special, and we were robbed. So
We were. I mean, obviously the pre-race celebration, the military and the demonstrations are always special. They were more special this year with the special guest who was there. Like it or not, he did bring more eyeballs, more attention.
it's fair.
And you feel a almost palpable energy on the grid building up to the race. And just to see that peter out a little past halfway feels like we all just left something on the table.
Yeah. I'm using pizza from my mouth. It feels like they almost like contradicted themselves too, SMI, because it was just a week ago that they waited until the track flooded and we all got stuck in the parking lot trying to leave before they called it. And
the track race being,
yeah. And then this week, oh, track's dry, but no, we don't care. So stupid. Like, I saw somebody, I'm not naming names, tried to defend it and be like, well, they were probably looking out for the fans and not wanting them to drive home at 3 a.m. Well, first of all, the Xfinity race didn't end last year till 1:30 for an Xfinity race, and we all stayed. Second, I don't know if they looked at the clock, but it was already midnight, and it took us all, I don't know about you guys, it took me an hour and a half to get out of it.
Long time.
So, maybe they should have thought about, those fans that stayed for 2 hours packed under the grandstands to see one of NASCAR's crown jewel races.
A sold out.
Oh, yeah.
Coca-Cola 600.
Infield and grandstands.
Yeah. So think about the people that's the only race they get to see this year.
Chuck, how much did you pay for a ticket?
I spent $130 to sit in the very last section of turn 1. Basically the worst seats there. $130. And that doesn't count the fact that I had to pay to park, I had to pay to eat, I had to pay to drive there. So if you add it all up, I spent about $180.
I talked to a lot of people that paid a lot of money to be at this race because of, and you know why? It was literally, I said this in our bandwagoners guide, this may be the most anticipated Coca-Cola 600 ever. And literally the the biggest storyline, Kyle Larson running the double. Mm-hmm. And we didn't get it because of Peter, you were in the infield. What did the track look like to you when you left?
As I was driving out of the tunnel entering turn 3, I looked up at the surface in turn 3, obviously where the banking starts, and I want to say it was 100% dry. Obviously, the track dryers had been put away for probably 30 or so minutes at that point. But had they been on track that entire time, I feel like the track would have been pretty close, if not ready to go racing again.
Yeah. And what did we heard Joe Gibbs saying that, the drivers were going to be called to their cars in 15 minutes.
Right. The drivers, I don't know if it's a group text or a group me, whatever group conversation, was told, hey, get ready to go in about 15 minutes or so. So everyone was on standby and had the understanding we may get going again pretty soon.
I just don't get it.
That's pretty telling. I think it's very telling, actually, as to who. Because, it would make more sense. I've been a part of scenarios where they get the track dry, and then you look up at the sky, and it's like, okay, there's more coming. It's not worth it.
Yeah, there's nothing more on the radar.
But let me remind you for the, it was too late crowd. I already had mentioned the Xfinity race last year. I've been to a Southern 500 that ended at damn near 3 a.m.
Yeah, 2019, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I was
waited 5 hours to drive the track at the Daytona Summer Race for a 10-car, 20-lap shootout.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I was there.
It's not the local government officials, because not only the Xfinity race, the last night of World Finals in November ends past midnight every year. So there's nothing to do with local government officials, if anybody wants to throw that excuse out there, because anybody that thinks the local Charlotte region area government is going to screw racing over is out of their mind, because this economy relies on racing to survive. So you can throw that out the window. NASCAR doesn't benefit anything by throwing the second half of one of their biggest races out the window. The only person they don't benefit, but they also don't lose anything either, is Fox. So I think just kind of tells the whole story right there. Because they also weren't, other than the Xfinity race, they weren't broadcasting any of those other races we just mentioned.
Yeah. It's nothing more than heartbreaking. Like, I've been, ever since I left, I'm standing in the concourse and I am with some friends, and he looks down at his phone and he said they caught it, and I literally laughed in his face. I said,
we were taking a picture together when they called it.
Yeah, we were. It's pure insanity to think they would have called it. Chuck and I just walked out there and was like, oh shit, we're going racing here in a few. And I couldn't believe it. I didn't even know who was in the lead. I'm 100% honest with you. I had no clue Christopher Bell was in the lead. Because it was unfathomable to me that was the pivotal point of the race that, was going to end it. Like, I mean, never, like, the rain hit and every single one of us was like, we'll be back racing here in a few.
Right. That was the vibe going throughout the infield too, that, oh, lightning's here, we'll wait 30 minutes or so, and it's not raining yet. And then it started raining. Yeah, it did rain a bit aggressively for maybe 15, 20 minutes there, but it stopped and the radar looked clear. It looked like we could relatively quickly get going again.
Yeah.
We literally said it in our group chat, buddy. We were like, oh, this is so funny because Larson just showed up. This is exactly what he needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I mean, Christopher Bell won the race, and stop calling me. I'm not gonna sit here and bash him and say he didn't deserve to win because he arguably had the best car. So
right, he led the most laps in the race, so he was a top 2 or 3 car.
And there was a lot of people that booed when he was in victory lane, and he mentioned it. And I hope he and everyone else involved understands that the boos weren't at him. The boos were at NASCAR, because we were all sitting there like, dude, what the hell? We've all just sat out here under the grandstands packed like sardines.
To be honest, I didn't really appreciate the fact that he was like, I don't mind they called it. I was tired. I was ready to go home. I didn't really appreciate that. That seemed to me it seemed to me like a middle finger to the fans. So he can kiss my ass for that one. But I mean, I'll bring this up because I think it's important. So last year at the Chicago Street Race, I was there when the Xfinity race was called before halfway, and they said only. And what is the terminology they use, Peter?
Except in rare instances.
Exactly.
EIRI.
Yes. So, except in rare instances that they were able to call the Xfinity race early for Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you could have given that excuse to everybody in the grandstands to, hey, come back tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow at 11 or tomorrow at 12, like the Daytona race a couple years ago. One of you guys mentioned the summer one that Austin Dillon won. We came back the next day. I think it was at noon restart. We ran the rest of that race and all was good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Kyle Larson literally, like, I mean, how big, like, you can't fathom how big that story is. I mean, it has been the bucket list item for not just Kyle Larson, for the entire sport of auto racing to get him in the Indy 500. It was the dying wish of Robin Miller. This has been hyped up for almost a year and a half. And he unfortunately, whatever happens, it rains at Indy. He can't make the start of the 600. Justin Allgaier drives a great race. Drives a fantastic race. Is 13th when Kyle arrives in Charlotte, gets out of the car and tells the whole world, tells Cliff over the radio, but to the whole world, Kyle Larson's got a rocket ship. And you know what? I would fully believe Kyle Larson was going to get in that race car, have a shot to win the Coca-Cola 600, and it would have been the biggest story in God knows how long.
Even if he didn't win, if he finishes 4th or 8th or something in the top 10, it's still a huge story.
Exactly. He gets somewhere close. I mean, you can't tell me that he would not at least get back to the front at some point. Right,
exactly. He would have finished higher than 13th, somewhere in the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that we don't get to enjoy it is just, it seemed personal to me. It seems personal. It seemed very personal to me, not necessarily to me specifically, but to the fans. It was a personal jab from Fox or whoever called it. Sounds like it was Fox, right? That's the only thing that makes sense. It sounded like just we don't give a shit about you. Like, so I don't.
I also saw somebody throw out there that NASCAR spent months hyping up Kyle doing the double.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as they didn't get it to go their way, they cried like a little kid and took their ball and went home.
I don't know if
maybe it wasn't as much NASCAR as it was Fox.
Yeah, I think it was more.
I don't know.
I just can't see, even as frustrating as NASCAR makes me sometimes. I can't see NASCAR wanting to call that race.
I can't either. Like you said, they were hyping up this Larson double story as long as it had been announced for a year or however long it was. I really feel like they wanted to see Larson in that 5 car, even if it would have been technically Allgaier's result. The fact that Larson would have been able to run both crown jewel races in a single day, I mean, that's arguably story of the year right there.
Yeah, I mean,
if you look at the practice averages, he may have had the best car there.
It sure seemed like it. I mean, yeah, I mean, let's talk about Kyle Larson. Like, Peter, you weren't able to get a word. No one was able to get a word from Kyle.
Well,
there.
Bob walked with him to his car, but that's it. 30 seconds with Bob.
Yeah,
and that was the most dejected Kyle Larson I've ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think Jordan Bianchi, he said it. I listened to the teardown earlier. He said it. Yeah, he walked up to the pit box after the race was over. Fans, everybody's standing around. No one's getting close to Kyle. He's he's sitting on the pit wall. He looks just much like Pato O'Ward did after losing the Indy 500. I mean, and he just wanted a chance. And I mean, we all wanted a chance to see it. I mean, we were robbed in so many ways from this night. I mean, Peter, what did you take from what he said, Peter, after the race to Bob?
I mean, you could just see it in his eyes how disappointed, frustrated, robbed, everything, every adjective possible that he was. And initially at the moment, I was mad that because NASCAR said they're going to bring him in for a press conference and then that they weren't. But I mean, after seeing that video from Bob, it was pretty evident that he was just not in the mood. And I'm not going to be here to force someone to go to a press conference after enduring everything that he had after a year of buildup.
Yeah. I even took more from the chapter book he put on Twitter today.
Yeah.
It just kind of, Kyle's not ever a guy that shows a lot of emotion. Like, in rare instances, like in Kansas, he actually got excited for winning a race.
Right.
And this was the opposite. Like, you don't normally see, I mean, he'll beat himself up from time to time, but this was just like a full-on defeated Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
And you don't see that very often. It just sucks because it really was. He said it, what was supposed to be one of the greatest days of his life.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and I'll read it.
Quickly turned into a nightmare. Yeah, go ahead and read it.
Yeah. So Kyle Larson put this on Twitter. He said, "What I thought could have been one of the best days of my life quickly turned into one of the most disappointing I've ever experienced. I hate it for Rick Hendrick, Jeff Gordon, Hendrick Automotive Group, Hendrick Motorsports, and everyone a part of the 5 team, everyone on the 17 Indy car, for my speeding, my family, my friends, my fans, and the documentary crew that followed along to the journey the past 8 months. So much time, money, and effort went into this experience, and it kills me to have it all in the way it did. I feel like I let so many people down. We knew all along whether it could throw a wrench into things, but seeing it come to reality is really a horrible feeling. Up until Sunday, it's truly one of the greatest experiences in my life. I can't describe how appreciative I am of everyone's support of me to live out a dream. I hope it's not the last opportunity I have to try the double, but if it is, I guess it was memorable. Thank you to everyone at Aaron McLaren, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and all the competitors for making me feel welcome, ready to get back on track and get refocused on winning a second championship for our team. KL, like pouty face, sad face. One of those emojis. So, Yeah, that's it's not a side of Kyle Larson that we've seen before.
No, that's probably the longest tweet he will ever send.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I hope he gets to do it again.
I hope so too. I mean, AP reported that it was a 2-year deal with McLaren,
Yeah,
but obviously from the wording of that tweet, there may be some doubts there. We can all just cross our fingers, hope and pray that they can just possibly run it back next year.
yeah. I mean, I can't imagine why. Yeah, I can't imagine they wouldn't. Like, I can't imagine they would pass on the opportunity to have him back.
I mean, we honestly, not just himself and the two teams, but like everyone invested in it. The fans, everybody deserves to see that come to fruition. Like, because it was just a disaster this year.
To listen to the roar of the crowd at Wilkesboro when he flew in. I mean, that place erupted. There wasn't anybody there that wasn't a Kyle Larson fan.
And the same is true when he landed in Charlotte. I was standing in his pit box waiting on him, and it felt like Elvis entered the building.
Yeah, it was incredible. Like I was standing there with a friend of mine, directly across from his pit box, and literally I like jumped. I was like, "Oh, there's Kyle! There's Kyle! He's here!" Like, I mean, it was like Santa Claus. Like, it was like Santa Claus on Motorsports Christmas, and someone I guess someone decided to take all the toys out and not even deliver us coal, but deliver us shit.
The Grinch showed up and had to use the bathroom.
Yeah. I don't know.
So while we're on the topic of Kyle Larson, I got something to talk about.
Okay.
Let's talk about this whole waiver deal. Because it seems like the motorsports community is very split. There's half of us that think you'd be insane not to give him one. And then there's, for some reason, in my opinion, the other half think that it would be insane to give him one. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys give your thoughts.
Peter, you can be my Luther. I'll say what I'm gonna say, but you can say it more kosher than I. They're insane not to give him a waiver because they've given it to every other motherfucker out there, including Chase Elliott a year ago when he threw a fucking temper tantrum and crashed Denny Hamlin on the front stretch and tried to kill the motherfucker. And we gave him a waiver because he's NASCAR's most popular driver. And I don't know, Kyle Larson seemed pretty fucking popular. So if we're going by that logic, give him a damn waiver. If we're going by the logic of, just how they've always done it, give him a damn waiver. There's no shot on earth. It'd be the same. It'd be similar to the fining Ricky Stenhouse $75,000 for punching Kyle Busch, but going and fucking promoting it. Then don't take every fucking piece of Kyle Larson content off your damn social media if you're not going to let him get in the playoffs. If you're not going to, don't promote him and then deny him a chance. When he went and spent all this time, money, and effort, so did Hendrick Motorsports, your number one team that fucking gave you all the publicity in the world at Garage 56 last year. Don't tell them you can't run for the playoffs. They just did you a huge fucking favor, and they got shit on. And then you're going to tell them no? Come on.
You want to go, or do I go, Peter? Who's next?
Go ahead, Peter.
I'll be a lot more brief. Obviously, Larson had every intent to make the start of the 600, but weather got in the way. That's something no one can control. There was obviously a well laid out plan to get him to Charlotte as soon as possible once the race ended. Like Buddy said, they've given out waivers to just about everyone who's ever needed one, including Elliott last year. I feel like waivers are a very case by case basis, but you can't argue against Larson needing or meeting the requirements for a waiver here. The only reason he didn't make the start was because of weather, and it's not like he turned on the rain.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a great point. I mean, in the rule book it says attempt. Does it not say attempt the race? You have to attempt to
attempt at NASCAR's discretion. That may not be the exact wording, but it's close enough.
Gotcha. So well, he attempted. He qualified and practiced the car. He attempted.
Right, but I was told yesterday. The rule was changed sometime during COVID when qualifying went away. Qualifying does not institute an attempt anymore.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
There's a lot of people that I think aren't using their brains properly. Everybody's talking about precedents this, precedents that. Oh, I've heard somebody say, oh, well, this would set the precedent that the Indy 500 is a bigger deal than the Coke 600. Newsflash, it is. Coke 600 is one of NASCAR's biggest races. The Indy 500 is the world's biggest race. So, read a history book. People saying, okay, look, I'm going to go back to what you guys said. They give them to everybody. They gave one to Matt Kenseth for existing and sitting on his couch and then taking over the 42 car.
On God.
They gave one to Chase Elliott and Johnny Sauter for losing their damn minds and wrecking somebody and getting suspended.
Yep.
They didn't give one to Grant Enfinger for some reason for not having a ride. The waiver system is stupid. Kyle Busch missed half a season. He got hurt, valid, but he missed half a season. He got a waiver.
Yeah.
So the waiver system sucks anyway. For you to turn around and finally deny somebody, and it just so happened to be, I'm going to say that he might win most popular driver this year. I'm going to say he will because of everything he's doing for the sport. So you're pretty much new most popular driver. He just went out and did you a huge favor and put NASCAR on a global pedestal by running the Indy 500. If you turned around and slapped him in the face after the horrible day that he had and said, yeah, well, now you can't run now you're not in the playoffs. Number one, you're running Kyle Larson to the World of Outlaws or High Limit about 5 years sooner.
Yeah.
Number two, you're probably getting rid of him for the rest of the year because Kyle Larson doesn't like Loudon. Why is he not going to go run at Eldora or something that week? So, and number three, you're pretty much guaranteeing that nobody's ever going to do the double again because immediately as soon as somebody's contract comes up, they're not going to be allowed to do shit.
Yep.
So it does NASCAR absolutely zero favor to deny him a playoff waiver. Literally does nothing but cost them money and publicity. And that's all NASCAR's about anyway at this point. We all know that. So I need to watch what I say. But yeah, like the thought that they would even consider not giving him a waiver is an absolute joke. And anybody that thinks that should happen and he shouldn't be in the playoffs is clearly just a Kyle Larson hater because that's the only possible reason you could think that because he's doing incredible things for the sport. Last thing. Somebody said, well, this does set a precedent that you could just skip a race. On certain grounds. Somebody said, well, what if Kyle Larson wanted to go run Monaco next year? That's fine. You know why? Because he's putting the sport of NASCAR on a global pedestal and growing it to a larger audience. As long as he's not just taking the week off to go to Cabo or something, and he's actively promoting the sport, and not just Kyle, Joey Logano wanted to do it. If freaking
Justin Haley turned down an Indy 500 ride.
Yep.
Exactly. Like, whoever, it doesn't matter if they're actively growing the sport for you and branching out to bring it to a larger audience. There's no reason for you to punish them, and it would be stupid too.
Chase Elliott committed actions detrimental to stock car racing and got a playoff waiver. Kyle Larson did nothing but good things for NASCAR. There's no reason. The playoff, like you said, the playoff waiver system is convoluted as can be. I don't understand why we even have it. The concept that a driver would intentionally skip a race is insane to me. Like,
maybe 20 years ago when guys would purposely sit out Sonoma or Watkins Glen and put a rear in, but that's not the world we live in anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean these guys
have contracts.
Yeah, exactly. They have contracts. They have all sorts of things. Like, and I have a hard time believing. I understand the time, money, and effort that Rick and Jeff and Hendrick and everybody put in. So I understand why they would want Kyle to run the Indy 500. But I have a hard time believing they would have left him in the Indy if they didn't get a nod and a wink from NASCAR saying, we'll give you a waiver. Yeah. So,
agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as the decision to leave him in Indianapolis, we heard for pretty much all the way up until last week that the priority was the Coca-Cola 600. And that tide turned really quick. What were you guys surprised at all by that? And what were your feelings about it?
Go ahead, Peter.
there's no right decision here. I mean, if you're already up there, you're there with Jeff, with Rick, with so many people already on the ground there, ready to go. It's tough to just put that car in jack stands and not have it start the race, or to put Nolan Siegel or Tony Kanaan, whoever is not acclimated to that car and that team, in a environment where they probably wouldn't succeed. Not saying Siegel or Kanaan aren't talented race car drivers. Kanaan and Siegel both are, but they weren't practicing that car all months. They didn't know every intricacy and nuance of the track and traffic and everything.
Yeah.
I will go a step further and say that they made the right decision.
Yeah.
Because Seth is obviously a Kyle fan, and he said he said he would have been mad if they skipped the 500, and not just because he was there.
Yeah.
Like, it's not every day that you qualify on the second row at Indianapolis, and anybody that disagrees can argue with the wall. It is the greatest spectacle in racing. It is the greatest auto race in the world, and it will never be topped. So Kyle Larson has a chance to win the Coca-Cola 600 every year. You don't always have that opportunity. And if you pass it up, that's kind of like bad karma. You're, in a way, saying that you don't care enough to come back.
Yeah.
And then somebody's not going to give you another opportunity. So I think that probably played a factor too.
I think it was I thought it was, honestly, dude, there was a lot of things, like I said last week, when they pushed back qualifying at Wilkesboro. I was for a long time on the train of, if they push back the 600, like say Kyle needed a few extra minutes to get to Charlotte to run the 600. And I was a firm believer that if they pushed back the 600, they shouldn't have that was fucked up, and they shouldn't do it, because that would say this driver's more important than everybody else.
Right. And that was a popular sentiment to other drivers in their media breakouts this weekend. And Denny, I think, said it perfectly. Anything more than 30, 35 minutes would probably be overkill.
Yeah.
If Larson was in the air near Charlotte, that's one thing. But if he hadn't have left Indy yet, that's something completely different.
Yeah. I was on that train for a while. But after watching qualifying, watching practice, watching our driver, not our driver as in our favorite driver, our driver as in our NASCAR driver that went to run the greatest motor race in the world, see him do the things he did, prove to the entire world that he is the greatest race car driver in the world, and that he is a NASCAR driver, and that every day, and he's not even the best NASCAR driver on any given week. He gets his butt whooped sometimes. That any one of these guys could go and do it. And it better have made every damn person in the sport proud. And if he's in the air and they need to postpone it, I'll drink another beer and I'll wait. Because, I mean, you had to. You had to. And it really said a lot to me, and it was so cool to hear Rick Hendrick. He did an interview last week, and they said, it's game time decision. What do you do? Does he run Indy or does he run the 600? And Rick said, it'd be hard for me to pull him out of the 500. And they made the right call. They 100% made the right call. Like, I mean, like you said, you don't know when you're going to get another shot to run the Indy 500. You don't know when you're going to get another shot to win the Indy 500. And he had a shot to win. He sped on pit road, stepped on his own dick a little bit, but he had a shot to win the fucking Indy 500. Like his fucking teammate was leading with half a lap to go. His other teammate was right there. Like, he could have been in the thick of it. So you'd be insane to think he wouldn't run the 500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You summed it up. So
yeah. I do want to say Justin probably doesn't care too much, but I am a little bit gutted for him because he drove a hell of a race, and it would be very much an Eric Almirola situation if Kyle Larson would have won that race. Justin Allgaier would have gotten the credit, but it
Yep.
wouldn't have been the same as Eric Almirola because Justin Allgaier knew what his job was that day and was just proud to be a part of the team. And I'm gutted that he didn't get to experience the fruits of the labor he put in for that team. I mean, we could be talking about today. Kyle Larson might have been standing in victory lane. I guarantee you Justin Allgaier would have been on the other side of that trophy.
No, he said, because he came in during the rain delay and he said, if Larson wins, I'm staying and I'm going to victory lane with him because my name would be on the trophy.
Exactly. And no matter what, you could say it. There's it's funny. There's co-champions of the Indy 500 from back in the day.
Yep.
And it'd be funny because it'd be like that. It'd be an homage to Indy almost. A co-champion of the Coke 600. And I don't care. I don't care what the circumstances are. If I was Justin Allgaier, I would be just as proud as I would be if I went out and got the win myself because of what you contributed to the sport. I'd be just as happy to win that race, only running just over half of it, and get my name on that trophy as a cup winner.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would even say that, like, he exceeded his job.
Oh, 100%.
Because, like, there was a point that he was a lap down, and he drove past the leaders to unlap that car because there was probably a realization of, man, if he gets here and this car's a lap down, he's screwed.
Yeah.
He got up on the wheel, and I don't know if people are realizing, oh, well, he ran 13th with what may have been the best car in the field. That was also his first lap on a mile and a half in the next gen, was starting the race.
Yeah.
He was learning the car as the race progressed.
He was literally being coached on the radio. He didn't understand dirty air or blocking or anything with how this car works and how vastly different it is from Xfinity.
Peter, this was only his third next gen race, right?
I believe so. He ran
one was Bristol Dirt
and
then Talladega, right?
Yeah, Dega. That's it.
Talladega, he ran the 62, right? When Gregson got in the 48.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So I mean, yeah, he did an exceptional job. I mean, but Peter, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say this almost is like what he was robbed of back in 2020 when Jimmy had to sit out the Brickyard 400 and he was wrecked first time down pit road. I don't remember how early that was. It was early in the race, and everyone thought that he had a prime opportunity to potentially do the unthinkable and upset as a substitute driver, and he didn't finish the job this time, but he had an all-star showing.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it would have been crazy because, he would have obviously been credited with the win, been his first career win. Also, we've seen that apparently it's not that big of a deal to get your first win and get put in the all-star race. Colleague and Trackhouse, sons of bitches. But I guarantee you we would have seen a fifth injured car in the all-star race next year with Justin Allgaier in it. Yeah. But I did. It was funny. I was looking at him. I was like, damn, Justin Allgaier's got the best car in the field. He's running dead last with it. I nudged her, not dead last, but I nudged, I think it was Mom, or I don't remember who I was standing with at the time. I nudged him. I said, they had a perfectly good driver that could have gotten in the car that they had in there last week. Nope, he's sitting in a booth right now. But I obviously ate my words on that one. But let's talk about the actual race. Raise your hand if you remember much of what happened before the rain. Okay, cool. None of us. Great. Yeah. Dude, for me at least, I was sitting there just having fun. Dude, that's part of what's fun about Charlotte, and we all can relate to this because Peter, you're from up the road. I'm from down the road. You're right in the backyard of Charlotte, Chuck. We have so many friends and all the teams, they got their families. It's a big community like atmosphere. And what in the world? It's a huge community atmosphere, and I'm sitting there drinking beers with my friends, right there on the front stretch, having a good old time. Cars are going around in circles, and it's like we're building up to what will be the Coca-Cola 600. And it stopped. It was
It stopped when Keselowski in second was the faster car chasing down Bell. I can't guarantee that we would have had a great finish like Kansas a couple weeks ago, but it was going to be something between those two.
Yeah. Chuck.
I spent probably the first half of the race either watching the Indy 500 or yelling at my phone because it was buffering and I couldn't watch the Indy 500.
Yeah.
So I like every now and then I look up. I mean, I know Ty Gibbs and William Byron led laps at some point.
William Byron made a pass in the grass.
Yeah, I didn't even know that till today when I was scrolling through social media. I was like, when did this happen?
Oh yeah. I looked up, I was like, oh shit. I was like, damn. All right, William.
Surf and the turf.
Yeah. The what?
The surf and the turf. Someone tweeted. I think it was Maya Snyder tweeted that.
God, man. I wish Shane had done it. That would have been even better.
So yeah, I mean, I know Shane led a lap on pit strategy.
You're goddamn right he did.
So I hope you took a picture of the pylon.
Huh?
I hope you took a picture of the pylon.
I didn't. No, I saw
literally
him take the lead, and I was like, stood up.
Has to be taken.
I did take a picture of the pylon on Saturday when he qualified and he was first for 12 seconds. I was like, top of the pylon. I don't care how many people have run. We'll get to the rundown here in a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. I don't remember anything. I
remember the battle between when Brad got around Byron, because at that point it was starting to get dark and I started watching the race. Charlotte honestly gets better when the sun goes down.
Yeah.
Not every mile and a half is that way, but Charlotte gets better and faster when the sun goes down because the guys can actually run the bottom.
Yeah.
I just remember Brad running down Bell because my buddy next to me had our scanner on and he was listening to Brad and TJ Majors. And TJ said when he passed Byron, he said, "All clear, go get his ass." So then we started watching. That's really all I remember is that and Blaney smacking the wall. I did see that.
Yep.
But I don't know. It's almost like when you go to the 600.
Feels like I wasn't there.
Yeah, really honest. That's the first time I've ever felt like I was just sitting at a race for the hell of it, I guess.
Yeah.
But in a way, when you go to the 600, the first half is always just kind of like hang out, have fun, talk to your friends. The second half is when you start like, okay, this is when we sit down and watch a race because it takes as long as it takes twice as long it feels like as a normal race does because it's 600 miles. So you feel like you have half the race. You have an entire Xfinity race to just screw off and do whatever. So I don't know. I didn't really pay attention for much of it, honestly.
It's even more disappointing. Peter, I want you to comment on this. As good as the mile and a half package is with this car, and like as good as the last two Coca-Cola 600s have been, like that makes it even more disappointing that we got it cut short because I feel like we didn't even get to the good part.
We were just getting there. Brad was slowly inching his way forward towards Bell, and like TJ said over the radio, go get his ass. I think there would have been fireworks between them.
Yeah.
And with the 600 the last 2 years being arguably a race of the year, that just makes everything after the rain delay that much more painful.
Yeah. I mean,
I got a question. You go ahead and I got a question.
No, I didn't have anything. Go ahead.
So I don't know if you guys saw Toby Christie's proposal that all crown jewel races have to be run to the finish, regardless of how long it takes. And we'll start with calling crown jewel the Southern 500, the Daytona 500, and the Coke 600.
Yeah.
There's only two others that you can debate.
Yeah.
It's Indy and the Bristol Night Race. That's 5 max. The top 3 are.
I think the top 3. Yeah.
I think the top 3 would be fine, just because those races hold so much prestige that I feel like that's a fair statement to say that there should be a rule in place to where those 3 races have to be run to completion.
2 of them
Full.
are worth more points than every other race in the season.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you think about that? And I also saw, I'll throw this in there. Somebody else said that we should move the official race mark from 50% to 75%.
I mean, I think,
don't know about that.
Yeah, I think we should do a hard stop at, you got to get through the final stage, not the final stages in the race, but the final, stage 2 most weeks, stage 3 in the 600. I think that should be it. I don't think you should do halfway or the final stage. I think it should be a hard, like, stage 2 everywhere, stage 3 at the 600. You got to get there, or else you can't call it.
I think at least the crown jewel races should have to be run to 100%.
Yeah.
I think they mean too much to the teams and the drivers to win. Their tickets are too effing expensive, especially 2 of them. I think it would add to the meaning of those races to say, hey, no matter what, we're going to finish these.
Yeah. I think it's hard to say 100% completion, because say it rains with 30 to go in the Coca-Cola 600, and
Right.
we got to come back the next day, or say it rains the next day and we got to come back Tuesday to watch 30
so you
laps.
get a Texas 2020 situation.
Yeah. I mean, but I do agree that I think a good stopping point would be, you got to get through the final stage before the finish. So that way all the points are played out and accounted for, instead of Christopher Bell getting stage 3 and stage 4 points when he didn't have to run them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gutted for Daniel Suarez. I mean, that's obviously personal, but I mean, he pitted right before the rain happened. And if that goes green, here's a chance he ends up winning stage 3. And that makes a world of difference in his life. I mean, because he finished 24th, got next to no stage. Well, I don't know, I can't remember if he got stage points in 1 and 2, but he finishes 24th versus what would have been a stage win, like in one of his best runs outside of his win this year. I mean, that's, like I said, that's doesn't mean much to anybody outside the 99 team and his fans, which me, but I don't know. It's just little nuggets like that you look at and it's like, well, damn, dude, we really didn't make an effort. And, these are the domino effect of, the repercussions of this decision.
I would expand on Toby's proposal a bit, and instead of prioritizing if you're past halfway or getting to halfway, just still prioritize getting the entire race distance in if there is a window. Obviously, there was a window last night, and they could have finished, but for whatever reason that we got to pretend we can't say, we just didn't finish it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really have much else. Christopher Bell won the race. It'd be hard for me to really give him a whole lot of credit for this one. I mean, that's not taking anything away from Christopher Bell, but it'd be hard for me to call him a Coke 600 winner. Yeah, he won, gets his second win of the year. I think this is the first time he's gotten more than one win in the regular season.
Yes, it is. His previous second wins have all come in the playoffs.
Yeah. So this is big, obviously big for him. He's been wildly inconsistent this year. So we'll see what that does for him going into the rest of the year. Like I said, it's hard for me at least to give a shit. But I guess we'll get to the fun part, the rundown from Down Under.
The final time onto the front stretch. He comes to the checkered flag. He's won the very first street history in NASCAR. Thank you, God.
weekend, much like the rest of the weekend. It's a little bit disappointing. Not because of Shane, but we didn't really get to see what Shane could have done. In the Xfinity, we'll talk about the Xfinity race first. Dude, I don't think you watched it, Chuck, did you? No. Peter,
I watched like the last 20 laps,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Shane looked like he was struggling the first part of this race. Did not look like he knew how to hang. And Charlotte's a tough track. I mean, it's the most temperature sensitive racetrack in NASCAR, and it's a tough track to get around. He stated after Darlington he wasn't too comfortable with running the wall quite yet. He got pretty damn comfortable with it by the end of it, though, and comes home 15th. Peter, what did you see out of old Shane van Gisbergen throughout the day on Saturday?
I mean, same old song and dance for him all year long. He spent the first half probably babying the car a little bit, just learning the track, learning the limits of the car. And last quarter to half of the race is when it was go time, and he was slowly picking off cars one at a time.
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool because I feel like we were broken record with this, but in a good way. Every week we talk about Shane. We talk about how he didn't do too well in the beginning of the race, and he's trying to figure it out. And it's interesting to me because every week it's not that he figures it out and just kind of picks them off one by one. He figures it out and attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's impressive to me, and that's what I think sets him apart from a lot of other people.
You could really go back to him doing that at Chicago too.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, he's not unpredictable by any means, but he is unstoppable. So, well, unless you're Taylor Gray and you want to run him in the fence for not a whole lot of reason. So that was really cool. Add Taylor Gray to that list with Austin Hill on the FU list. I was not too happy with that. Getting into the Cup race. Anything you got to say about the Xfinity race before we go on, Chuck?
I didn't watch it, so I can't say. All I know is the Xfinity race, for what it sounds like, was a shit show.
It had those moments, yeah. And then
it did.
Chase
From the highlights I've seen, it was this guy getting wrecked and that guy getting wrecked and this guy.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
every year's Charlotte Xfinity race, so.
Pretty much. And Chase and Craig Ives saved a set of sticker tires, and they obviously
still almost got beat by Brandon Jones on old tires.
God, boy, I thought we were going to make it through this entire show without mentioning the fact that SOB won the race.
I'd just rather say that Brandon Jones almost cooked him on old tires. But Shane finished 15th?
Shane didn't finish 15th. Peter,
oh, well, good for Shane. That's all I got to say. I didn't watch.
Peter doing his due diligence, making sure everybody gets a fair shout out. But yeah, I mean, he has not crossed the finish line in an Xfinity race worse than 18th. We're 12 races in to Xfinity?
Mm-hmm.
Like 13 races.
And where's Xfinity going next?
Portland. Yeah, and then what's after that? Sonoma. Wait, are they going to Sonoma?
No, I think trucks are. Wait, no, Xfinity is. My bad.
Xfinity is? Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, literally, mechanical problem at Vegas. I'm going to say this every damn week, and I don't care if I'm a broken record. Mechanical problem at Vegas. A BS penalty at Coda. He ran out of fuel at Talladega. Who knows what would have happened in Vegas? He crossed the line second at Coda, and he was running third when he ran out of gas at Talladega. Other than that, the motherfucker is not finished worse than 18th. He's never done this before. He's so good. He's so good. Cup race, there's not really much to say. I mean, he didn't get a fair shake. He qualified terrible, which isn't too surprising. It's ever-changing track conditions, totally different than the 300 miles he ran a couple minutes before, and colleagues not that great. But despite that, did he finish a lap down? Do we know, Peter?
I believe he was a lap down. Yes.
Okay, so he's a lap down. Still a long way to go. He could have made that up. Finished unfortunately 28th. I think if the race had gone green, then he probably could have, or gone the full distance, not necessarily green. I think he probably could have judging by past Charlotte races and how many cautions there were. I think he could have gotten back on the lead lap and we at least had a decent showing. We have a caller. We have Seth Dolby. Seth Dolby, you're live on the Big Motor Small Blade podcast.
All right, that's what I was hoping you would say.
Y'all can't hear him. Yeah, but he's in the mic right now. Go ahead. What are you saying, Seth?
All right, what pertinent issue are we talking about right now?
Here, I can't unplug my headphones to let them hear. We were talking about Shane van Gisbergen, and we had just gotten done talking about his Xfinity race, and now we're talking about Cup. But give your words about the Xfinity race.
I didn't watch. I don't know anything about it.
Thank you for your continued efforts.
I was gonna call in earlier, but I knew I was going through tunnels, and at which point it would not work. So I didn't. So anyway, yeah. So Shane ran okay, right?
In Xfinity, he ran okay. Yes.
Where did he end up in Cup?
28th.
Okay, that doesn't mean anything because we only had like 300 whatever miles anyway. So who cares? Waste of time.
Yes. What did you give me a quick synopsis of the Cup race? And before you do that, I am gonna unplug my headphones, and it shouldn't matter. No, it will matter. So I'm sorry, you guys can't hear.
Hey,
I'll repeat it.
What about our Shane van Gisbergen stat we were going to give?
From what I saw, it's starting to look like a 550 race a little bit. Kind of irked me a little bit, but I don't know. It seemed like a Charlotte race for the most part, and it was not. It was going to be a totally different race at that point. By the time it actually started to rain, it was about to turn into a very different race. Since old Kyle Larson was about to show up, and I don't know, maybe put a whooping on him. I'm not sure. Who knows? I mean, sorry, Justin Allgaier was about to go in.
Justin Allgaier.
Was about to go in and put a whooping on the field.
All right. Well,
I guess if you switch his letters, he'd be Austin Allgaier. So that doesn't really work. But anyway.
Austin Allgaier. Okay. You got anything to say to Peter and Chuck? They can't hear you, but I'll relay them.
Hey, Peter and Chuck.
He says, "Hey, Peter and Chuck."
Hey,
Yeah.
we need his
I
pick.
hate that y'all's race got rained out. That must have been not fun.
No, it sucked dick.
Yeah, I'm imagining since I've been I don't think I've been at a rain shortened race actually. No, that's not true. The freaking Chicago Xfinity race last year. So
let me ask you your opinion on this. And we'll get back to the rundown from down under.
Okay.
You bring up Chicago, which Shane van Gisbergen won the Cup race there. Just to throw that out there in case anybody didn't know that.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. What do you think that in rare instances, we obviously saw the Chicago street race get called early. Do you think in rare instances we should be able to run the race, even though it's past halfway, into the next day?
I don't think we should pack up and come back if we're past halfway in any situation. Sorry, my phone's telling me I need to turn here, but I don't think we should ever pack up and come back past halfway. But I do think that we'd finished the 600. Shut the fuck up. We have definitely finished the 600 way later than 1 a.m. before. So we should have at least waited till 1 a.m. to be like, okay, we'll see if this can change. Because obviously there's nothing you can do about the dew point hitting a point where it's not going to come out of the track. That's beyond the control of NASCAR. And if that had stayed until 1:30, sure. I'm okay calling it. But I think for the race, when you're going to have it's a holiday. I know everybody doesn't get Monday holidays off, but it is still a holiday. A lot of people do. I think it's fair to run this race as late as you think is an option to get it in. And it doesn't seem like NASCAR was committed to doing that, in my eyes. Now, I wasn't there, but it seems like they kind of fell short on this one.
It's fair. It's fair. Before we let you go, give your opinion on Shane van Gisbergen, since this is the rundown from Down Under, technically.
My opinion on Shane as a driver, or
overall
this weekend. I think he's great. Clearly one of the best drivers in the world. I would love to see him running the Indy 500 in a couple years. I think that would further cement his legacy as an all-timer, especially if his Cup career really starts to pick up in here in the next couple years. And I think he's definitely one of the guys I have marked on my little list of guys I want to see try the double at some point.
All right, cool.
Yep.
Who is your pick for where are we going next?
It's
I
Gateway
don't have my
and
list
Portland.
in front of me,
Gateway.
so I can't. Well,
All right.
no, I know what race. I don't know.
Just,
I
uh,
can't remember off the top of my head who I picked
Make sure he knows that.
and who I haven't. So
Okay,
at
well,
the
it's
risk
fine.
of-
You finished last anyway,
Point.
so you finished last anyway, so
finished
you can
last.
submit it later. But
I will submit it later then.
okay, cool. All right, well, you drive safe back home to where you live from Indianapolis.
Thank you. Y'all have a great rest of the podcast.
Go fuck yourself.
I will.
In your car?
No, not in my car.
I hung up on him.
I don't want to know.
Anyway, so that was Seth Dolby live, the Big Motor Small Boy podcast. I don't know how technology works. I apologize for that. Hopefully you guys heard most of that. Not only y'all, but everybody listening at home, because I didn't have him hit the speaker to the phone facing the front of the mic. I had it to the side, so that might have been tough to hear there for a minute, but you get the synopsis. Back to the rundown from Down Under. I think we pretty much covered everything there.
There is one other thing.
What? Oh, yes, there is.
Yes.
Peter?
So Shane did, in a way, run a Coke 600 because 373.5 miles equates roughly to 601 kilometers. So going by 600K, he did finish a Coke 600.
Shane's confused. He's like, what are we talking about? We didn't finish the Coke 600. Yes, we did. We went into overtime.
Yeah, we did. And it's something to be said too. A lot of people, I heard some people say like, "Oh, how's he gonna do? He hadn't really run a race this long before." I'm like, Bathurst is literally like, it's about the same, a little bit more than the 600. It's like 621 miles, I think. Bathurst is.
Yes.
3-time winner of that. I do have something special to share with our friends at the run down from Down Under, our friends from Down Under. I had the great pleasure on Sunday afternoon of meeting Senpai himself, Shane van Gisbergen. I was I'll tell you a story. My mom and I, big Daniel Suarez fans, we you could buy wristband or buy something at the souvenir trailer, get a wristband to like meet the driver if they're appearing there the Sunday of the race. So it's Friday. I go and buy a wristband or buy something to get a wristband for mom to see Daniel Suarez. The Trackhouse guys, most of them except for Ross, are at the same trailer. So I taken a picture of the whiteboard out in front of the hauler that showed when the times were for the drivers. And Saturday afternoon, I looked at my phone. I was like, let's see when that Suarez thing is. And I saw Zane right above it. Had not noticed this before. Zane Smith and Shane van Gisbergen at whatever o'clock. And I was like, oh my God. So I hustled my ass down there. Got me a wristband. Stood outside in the blistering hot temperatures, giddy as all could be. And I met Shane van Gisbergen. I am so excited that I got to meet him. He was awesome. He was just as nice, and just like, you could tell he's still a little bit getting used to this whole fan interaction thing and whatever, but he was very nice. And I let him know that we have this podcast, and that we talk about him a lot, and that we love him, and that you guys from down under make up 50 to 60% of our viewer base. And he said, no way, that's awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you for talking about me. He appreciates all of you. We appreciate all of you. And it's just a really cool experience, and it was a really cool moment for me, even, just to meet the guy for, a couple seconds, or what, a minute or so. It was still super special, and I wanted to share that with everybody from down under. He's awesome.
He really is. The limited experience I've had around him, he's just a happy-go-lucky guy. I've never seen him not smiling.
Yeah. Chuck.
Oh, I guess I'll add this. When I was trying to find you during the rain delay, I walked past a guy bringing in autographed Shane van Gisbergen hat, and I didn't even stop and look at him. I just kept walking, and I said, "SVG's the GOAT."
Hell yeah!
He turned around and said, "Hell yeah, he is."
Nice. Yeah. Seeing a lot more SVG merch nowadays out there, but yeah, I wanted to share that, and thank you again to everybody that from New Zealand and Australia, and of course everybody here in America, and Jose down in Mexico, for listening to the show. We love you guys, and it's cool little things like that make us happy and proud to do this. Other than that, I think that's about all we had. Does anybody else have anything else to add before we get into picks and accolades and all that stuff? No? Chuck?
No.
Okay. Just making it sound like your mic stopped working. I just want to make sure. Okay. Let's go. This race was 249 laps and 373 miles of the Coca-Cola 600 bitchin'.
No.
Nope.
It was building up to that point, but we didn't get there, so no.
Exactly. It was, I can't say. I can't say what. I'll tell you guys off the show what I equate this to. But
you guys want to talk about a good race? Watch On Tour this week. We have a show for good racing.
Yes, we do have a show for a good race on tour from Tri-County. We'll talk about that. I didn't even mention what happened to me on Friday night. I guess I'll do that. We'll go ahead, sundress and dumbass. Peter, go ahead, sundress.
Putting me on the spot.
Chuck, do you have one?
Sundress, I guess I'd go Newgarden going back to back. No one has done that in over 20 years. That's cool to see. Dumbass, Austin Hill.
All right.
That's a good one.
Oh, hold on. Let's talk about that for a minute. For Austin Hill.
Gives me time to think. It's hard for me.
Dude, who is this man? Like, seriously, who is this man? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand anything he does and his logic. Like, he's got to be suspended, right? Like, he has to be.
I would think so. I mean, we saw it happen to Kyle Busch after the Hornaday incident. Obviously, Chase after the Denny incident. Those are not the two most recent incidents like this, but the two most prominent ones.
Johnny Sauter got suspended for paying back somebody under caution.
It was Austin Hill.
That's the best part.
Yeah. So, okay. All right. Glad we got that out. Yeah, he's just
taking lessons learned from Johnny Sauter to dump Cole Custer on the backstretch at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah. Austin Hill sucks. I hate him. Chuck, go ahead.
Dude, have you guys heard his interview?
No, I hadn't heard this.
Oh, really?
Quote unquote. I don't know. He just lost his mind. Says the dude that pile drove somebody down the back straightaway under caution that was already right. What are you waffling about, brother? Well, I don't know. Like, can I go into sundress?
Yes.
My sundress is Austin Hill. because there's no way somebody didn't write him a check to play biggest 30-something-year-old man-child this offseason. And my God, dude, he deserves an Oscar, whatever award it is for that actors get for playing this bit so well. There's no way this is real. He has to be getting that check from this. There's no way this dude is legit, right? This isn't like, I'm sorry, this is my sundress because I truly believe this isn't real. There's no way this man actually goes into every race and thinks, all right, how can I be the most colossal clown shoe pain in the ass to this
Douche
series?
canoe.
Like, what? He lost his mind? What kind of hypocrisy bullshit is this?
Dude,
Somebody is doing an undercover documentary about this man. And they're just, every Sunday night.
dude,
There's no way. That's all I got, because there's no way.
I gotta know what medication he's on. I gotta get me some of that shit.
No, and I think that might be the problem.
I gotta.
Okay, I shouldn't say that. That's too far. I take that back.
I'll piggyback off of what you just take back. I agree. I think you should probably be on some. Dude, I'm trying to think of somebody to compare him to. I don't really know. This is just
Brian
delusion.
Vickers, maybe, without the sound bites.
And the wife.
Well,
Austin Hill has a wife, just doesn't have the well, you're not going to get into that.
Yeah. He'll replace his fraud with quotes.
Huh?
What? Never mind. That should not be repeated.
Okay, got you. Anyway,
maybe cut that.
So who's your dumbass?
Me, for the second week in a row. Completely unrelated to stock car auto racing, but I'm going to share it anyway.
Okay.
I was late to Abby's graduation Saturday morning because her mom sent me to get flowers, and while I was in a rush, I accidentally shut 2 of said flowers in my truck door. So,
wow.
So she got 10 rows instead of a dozen. Yeah. I used my dumbass as my sundress, so.
All right. Good job, Chuck. My sundress, we'll give it to Justin Allgaier, and the sympathy award goes to Kyle Larson. I feel horrible for him. But in sundress, like I said, Justin Allgaier, I think he did a great job. Dumbass is going to be the other host of On Tour, Buddy Pulley, because Friday night, circumstances happened, and I ended up having to drive back home to Raleigh Friday night and then drive back to Charlotte Saturday morning. And so as I'm leaving Charlotte, I am probably a couple minutes down the road. I get some blue lights behind me. Uh-oh. And I knew exactly why. Tags are expired because paying registration on your vehicle is theft. You won't convince me otherwise. I will pay it, but you know what? Just wasn't on the top of the priority list. So he pulls up the vehicle, and he obviously, it's midnight on a Friday night. I'd just been to a NASCAR race. He sees the mind you unopened case of Busch Light in the back seat that I had bought to partake in tomorrow. But I got to do a full on field sobriety test. That was the first time I've ever done that. Hopefully the last. And let me tell you, following that finger, stone cold sober is pretty damn hard. Just imagine if I was on what Austin Hill's on. There ain't no way I passed that shit. And yeah, I ended up, we talked a little bit, and actually, I'll be the dumbass. That cop will be the sundress, because we're sitting there talking. He clearly knows I'm fine. Everything's cool. And he let me go. But before that, he mentioned, he's like, "What, you're at the race?" He's like, "Who won?" I go, "Nick Sanchez." He's like, okay, I've never really paid attention much to NASCAR. I'm more of a dirt fan. I said, well, let me ask you something. What kind of dirt racing? And I said, late models or sprint cars? And my man said, sprint cars. I'm not a big fan of late models. They don't do much for me. So, shout out to that cop. You're also the sundress of the week for concurring with me in that late models suck and that sprint cars are better. And dumbass is me for getting pulled over. I'm not apologizing for not paying my damn tags. It's theft. It's theft. Taxation is theft. I will die on this hill. Anyway, Chuck has left the building. I guess let's get our picks to Gateway. Since Chuck's gone, Peter, you get to pick for Chuck and yourself. I know you're not in the picks, but we'll go ahead and give a rundown. I picked Chris Buescher. He promptly wrecked the shit out of his car in practice. Daniel Suarez is who Seth picked. He got screwed out of a decent run. Had a top 5, top 10 car. Probably was going to be the winner. But Chuck, under dubious circumstances, ends up with the win with Carson Hocevar after I jinxed myself and told myself it was a surefire victory with Chris Buescher. So, I'm getting flipped off by Chuck as we speak. Who are we picking for Gateway? Peter, you can pick whoever you want. Go ahead and go.
Ooh, that's tough. We only run the 2 races here, so there's not a lot to go off of.
And the 2 drivers that have... Huh?
I'll just go Truex.
Truex, yeah, and the 2
I
drivers.
don't have the stats to back me up, but it's a flat oval. He usually does well in them, and I think he's due for a win this year.
It's something to be said that the 2 previous winners at Gateway are not having the best of seasons either.
That's a good point. So it'd be a big win for either of them.
Yeah. Chuck.
So this is who I was originally going to pick, but I am taking a stand. My pick this week is Tyler Reddick. You want to know why? I
don't care why. I don't like it.
Because he drives dirt late models because they're superior to sprint cars. That's why. Tyler Reddick's going to win Gateway just because you shit on late models too much.
Well. Okay.
And that's
right.
done.
Well,
I have nothing else to say.
Let me go down my list and I will pick somebody. Let's see. I don't really know who to pick either for Gateway. I'm rather stumped with this one. Let's see. I can't use him. Shit. In fact, I've used him twice.
You've used who twice?
Bell. I already got penalized for it. God bless. Have I used him? I don't think he's going to have a good run. We're going to go with... You picked Tyler Reddick.
I don't know how confident I am in that pick, but you know what? I'm standing on business. That's why I'm picking him.
You know who I'll pick? I'll pick Noah Gragson. I think that's a good one. It's a shorter track. SHR seems to excel in those. I'm gonna pick Noah Gragson for Gateway. What's up?
I'll tell you when the show's done.
Okay. Other than that, appreciate you guys for listening to our rant-filled and disappointed sad boy hours, also known as Big Motor Small Boy podcast. Peter, thank you, of course, for joining us. We'll have you back on soon for sure. Peter, go ahead and plug all your stuffs.
Just my name, Peter Stratta, on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And then you can find my written work at tsj101sports.com.
All right. Chuck. And we've run out of time. So thank you guys, everybody, for, like I said, listening again. Make sure you watch on tour. Will be out later this week. If you care to retroactively go back and watch our Bandwaggers Guide to the Coca-Cola, I guess 373, or yeah. You could go and do that. We will have a Push to Pass episode following the Indianapolis 500 later this week. And yeah, watch more motorsports and fun content coming in the coming weeks. Subscribe, and most importantly, go fuck yourself.